Kathia Woods, the Philadelphia Tribune. Hi, guys.
How you doing?
Good, good. Let's get into it. Jermaine, you were really young when this actually was happening. So talk a little bit about why you wanted to be a part of it and what is it that you want this generation to get out of this film?
I'm gonna answer the second part first. Being from the South and being, we just celebrated the 50th anniversary of hip hop last year, and one of the things in seeing the celebration of hip hop, I started realizing that the South, our stories has not been told. You know a lot about the West Coast. You know a lot of, everything about New York. Um, but what do you know about Atlanta? What do you know about Miami? What do you know about the South and the surrounding cities? Nothing. You just know that we were making rap music and we was trying to make rap music. That's how we was perceived as people that's trying to make rap music, as opposed to actually being included into the story of those that have really contributed so much to the culture. So that's the first part. And then the next part was that I was young when Freaknik first started, um, but being from Atlanta, I was still affected. Freaknik was something that was big enough where no matter how old you were affected. You saw the traffic. You saw the news saying that this weekend, this is Freaknik. If you live in the Piedmont Park area, these streets are going to be blocked off and da 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 da. So, as a young person growing up, you saw all of this activity. And I grew up wanting to be a part of this activity. And once I got my license and been able to drive around and be in the streets and hang out, that was my next move. So I started out being part of the traffic, and then creating So Def, and creating the actual soundtrack that I feel like is the soundtrack for Freaknik, which became the So Def Bass All Stars. And these different records that we made became records that are very synonymous with 95, 96, and 97 of Freaknik. If not yet, 95 and 96, definitely.
Luke, let's talk a little bit about why music that definitely was changing in terms of hip hop and everything. But there's also a component about it where young people like myself who were in college, we were in the intersection of middle class young Black kids looking to forge careers, wanting to be a part of this, extending what our parents built. And then at the same time, the culture. So what do you want to say to people that while it's definitely the salaciousness and other parts of it were a part of it, but that wasn't the foundation of it. So how do you reconcile that we're missing a little bit, I think, also of the college experience in there, while at the same time highlighting the other part? So what do you want to say to those
Well,
folks?
when we decided to do this doc, we already know the average person right now. They'll go online to Google and they'll Google Freaknik and they'll see Wild Party. They'll see people dancing in the street, people going to jail and everything like that. And so that's why it was so important to put the college aspect of it in there when you see the group of young folks who created this event, and they sat there and they explained what their vision of it was, to the point where they did the parties in the park, the events, of bringing all these different students from the AU Center area into that park and having this event. You have that element of it, and when the average kid right now who goes to a HBCU or another college, African American student, they'll see that these folks came together and they had a party. I mean, so many other folks similar to that had parties, had events. I mean, some of the most iconic figures in the hip hop business started out at universities having parties. and as college students. I mean, so many of them that it's hard to name, but that was the most important part of it, and the driving part of the music. I mean, you had an innocent party going on at that time. The height of my career, later on, a couple years, the height of my career, probably one of the most controversial people in the world, going to Supreme Court, going to jail for music. And now we end up going to this party called Freaknik, not knowing that it was an event that college students created, and we just heard Freak and Nick, not knowing that it's really Chic, which Le Freak, the song where it all came from, not knowing the history of it, because it wasn't no social media, it wasn't no articles done saying this is what Freaknik actually is. And so you add our element of our music and fan base, and you add all that into it, it became something totally different than what everybody expected. You see the highs, ups and downs, the trials and tribulation of this event through this documentary, but you will get a rich history of how it became what it was and how it actually ended.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. Best of luck with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kathia Woods, the Philadelphia Tribune. How are you today?
How you doing?
Wow.
I'm going to ask, out of when you were putting this together and you were interviewing, why I appreciate the celebrity interviews, one thing is someone that was a young person when this was occurring, I felt that was missing a little bit, was the college student, the student that was attending, not necessarily from the creative end, but from the attendants. Was that a choice done purposefully, or did you have difficulty finding students that, set aside and talked about their spring break experience from just a student, a young person's coming of age point of view?
Well, I mean, if you watch the film, we have the original founders of Freaknik who were college students at the time. So even though they're a little bit older now, we did obviously talk to the actual college students who found it. And as you watch some of the archival, there's a bunch of young people who were students at the time talking about it. So I think we tried our best to get a diverse roster, whether it be entertainers, politicians, athletes, student, government leaders. The mayor is in there. And so, hopefully we did a pretty good job at a well-rounded thing. And as I mentioned, the actual students who started it are in the film.
I understand it, but what I mean is, like, if you look at similar documentaries, right, if we're going to say this is a coming of age, and absolutely you should have, it just seems as though you have, for instance, Jermaine Dupri and 21 Savage, who wasn't even alive when that happened, right? Mm-hmm. So we're saying this is the Black young person college experience. Why not lean into that just a little bit better? Because we don't have a lot of documentaries to talk about young Black college students. What is the planning? What was, what are some of the places you hung out? How did you forge your friendship? Did you meet anybody there that you're still in contact with? I felt like that was a little bit missing. Again, being a college student in the 90s, having gone on spring break, how do we convey that to this generation other than, of course, all the salaciousness and the other things that people knew about it, but where is like a little bit of the humanity in terms of like that part of it? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, no, I do think that a lot of the people who were founded it talked about their lives. They talked about the clubs that they were in. They talked about the parties that they went to. I'm not sure if you mean that the young people of today, but a lot of the young people of today, or even in the 2000s, weren't even at Freaknik because Freaknik wasn't happening. So I do believe that we put the actual people who were at Freaknik and who founded it in the actual movie. So I'm not understanding what you mean, but I don't know.
I think too, sometimes it has to do a little bit with access to folks. A lot of times the celebrities and the people that are involved in the community organizations are easier to reach. And when putting that call out there to folks who want to participate in the documentary, sometimes it's harder to find the regular people that were in attendance or that maybe are shying away, that don't want to be seen in the documentary for one reason or another. But that's definitely a valid point.
also, can we talk a little bit about, was there, when it became a college event and then it became commercialized, was there, was that part missing, or were you not able to ask why? How were people who were not at the creative end, who didn't create this, able to capitalize financially of this event, and the founders never compensated, or was that just something that you chose not to pursue?
I'm not sure if I understand your question correctly.
What I'm saying is, it was a student event, right? And then all of a sudden it went from a student event and transitioned into commercialization, right? And I guess my question is, how can people who, again, this was associated with young people in college saying they want to have this for themselves, and then now you have concert organizers and so forth. Was there compensation? Because again, they came in and made money off of someone else's idea. And if we were talking about today's day and age, we would say it is, gentrification type of thing. We would want the people came up with the idea. So was there discussion about that when the people that are saying, hey, we came in and we started doing this other thing, why they felt comfortable to do that?
I think part of the reason is because the festival grew so organically. Even the founders, I don't think that they realized exactly what they were creating up until recently, and really seeing how far Freaknik really came along. A lot of the founders, they moved away after they graduated from college. They were disassociated with the festival once they, grew to a certain age. And so I think part of that too was that organic nature. And then of course, people see opportunity. There's people flocking to Atlanta. So then that opened up the opportunities for different folks and even people in the community to promote their things, whether it's music, their businesses. We talk about the rim shop. So I think all of that sort of happened organically. And even the founders, in speaking to them for this film, didn't quite grasp the magnitude of what they were creating at that time. So I think in hindsight, they probably would consider something like that and want some sort of compensation for that. But I don't want to speak for them, but I think that they really didn't really realize the magnitude of what they were creating.
Thank you. Much success with the project.
Thank you.
All right.